Word to this computer. Good morning, John Whitberg. How are you this morning?
I'm alive and kicking against all odds and
Yeah, I guess
against my better judgment, perhaps.
as if we have a choice. Yeah, I'm about the same. Good morning, everyone. This is Jane Hatch. Welcome to my show. I am a healer and a psychic and all of that, and also a targeted individual. Just for the record, I was targeted very heavily last night with directed energy weapons, probably because of this show, which means it's going to be an important show. I believe it's coming from Shriver's Air Force Base for me, and I know John gets directed energy weapons too, and probably from, can I say the location or no?
And no, I
Yeah.
live in an undisclosed
Yeah.
location
Yeah.
because
And
I got doxxed a couple of years ago. So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah. So he's getting hit too. A lot of us are, but we have like I feel like a really fantastic show. I'm so glad he is getting this information recorded somewhere. We're going to cover the Merovingian bloodline. And a lot of people believe that targeted individuals, secret space program people, were a lot of us are coming from that bloodline, and we'll get into that. He also wants to talk about the Yellow Emperor, which is another important bloodline, and the Manchus. Is that how you
and
pronounce it?
choose.
Manchus. Sorry.
So,
Another. Thank God I have you, John, to correct my first introduction to some of these concepts. Well, at least the last two, the Yellow Emperor and the Manchus. And then the Volkish movement is another one. And I always want to talk about the state of the divine feminine intergalactically. And he might answer a couple of time travel questions for me. So thank you, John, for remembering all this. Do you have more memories than anybody of SSP? That as far as I know, you do. Maybe Arkeem,
no,
but
I would say I have more than Arkeem. I
yeah,
There's a couple of people. My oldest and dearest friend in the universe, Jack Flynn, I would say probably has about as many memories as I do.
yeah. I
Um,
think I've seen you with him on Saint Olga. Is that the name of his channel?
yeah,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
great
Well, not
channel too.
it's not his channel. It's Daniel Sala's channel. But yeah,
Okay.
and there was one woman who, alas, is no longer public. Who, but when she was, she went by the name of Tia Akrish, and incidentally, she's where she started me on the path of investigating and remembering the Volkish movement, which we're talking about today. So it's I owe her a considerable debt, testimony wise.
Okay. Well, that's good to
Yeah,
know. So I
yeah.
guess the general umbrella of this talk is ancient bloodlines and how SSP and targeted individuals may all come from these ancient bloodlines because we have certain skills that a lot of the other population doesn't have as far as being telepathic and psychic. Do you want to add anything to that, John?
Uh, Not especially. I think
Okay.
that covers it.
So do you want to start with the Merovingian bloodline?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
The Merovingian bloodline are the descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Uh, Now,
That's a great intro.
yeah. So the people will wonder, and this information, incidentally, I did not firsthand experience this, so I would say take it with something of a grain of salt. I am telling you everything that I learned in colonial Schule off world,
That's a
German for school. Um, this is what we were taught, and my research in general has led me to believe that it's largely correct, although there's been almost no research into the extraterrestrial aspect of it, which is kind of the beginning of it. So, although I don't, to be fair, I don't know how you would research that. So it's take that aspect with a grain of salt. The rest of it, I think, is fairly well provable. Um, so let me start off with the extraterrestrial aspect because that is the root of it, as it
Yeah,
is
that's
the root of,
fascinating.
as is the root of pretty much everything in existence. Is you know,
Yeah, I'm
um,
learning that. Yeah.
Jesus and Mary Mag. Well, no, Jesus was an Aldebaranite ET from the star system Aldebaran. Uh, Aldebaran,
Okay.
which is, I believe, it's the largest star, although it's not the brightest one, in the constellation Taurus. Yeah, Taurus. And excuse my scratching. Um,
Okay.
so where was I? So
We're in Aldebaran, the
yes,
or where
yes,
Christ, Jesus Christ, Sonata
yeah,
came from.
yeah. And this star system is infamous, incidentally. We'll get to it a bit later also with the Volkish movement, is the source of Nazi racial theory.
Is Aldebaran?
Yes,
Really?
yes.
Interesting.
The people of Aldebaran are all blonde, blue-eyed superhumans. Essentially, they would you would call them more human than human.
I
They're
thought Christ was darkish, like dark.
He was. That's why he was
Oh,
expelled. Um,
interesting.
because they have very extreme eugenic policies and they test a baby at they test whenever an Aldebaranite woman is pregnant, they do a genetic test on the embryo and find out what they're going to look like. And if it turns out that they're going to have darker hair or more olive skin or dark eyes, then the woman is given two choices essentially. Either she can leave pregnant and have the baby, or they can extract the fetus and sell it, and it'll be implanted in a woman somewhere.
That's extreme
Yeah,
racism, extreme
yeah,
racism.
yeah.
And did you learn most of this from the German school where you
Yes,
went? So this is where a lot of your information they actually tell real history, I guess, at their schools out off
to,
world.
they tell um they tell a more real version of history.
Okay.
They tell essentially the history that they learned from the Dracos, and they are able to confirm most of it because they have time travel technology. So they can just go back in time and observe a lot of stuff.
Oh wow.
So so they
Wow.
teach so they do that, and then they teach as close to it as to the real thing as they can, so long as they still come out looking like, you know,
Right. The
God's
best.
gift
The
God's gift to the
best.
universe.
Yeah, so it's a version of truth, I
Yeah.
guess. Maybe closer than on the earth
Yeah,
school's truth.
it's certainly much more complete because when they teach history, they begin with they teach when they teach Earth history, they begin with Atlantis.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
So why did they begin with Atlantis? They must have
because that was the first really big notable civilization here. Although, well, yes and no. The Draco also lived here, but they've never been a very significant uh amount of the population here.
So Atlantis was more, did you say Atlantis or Lemuria? Sorry.
Atlantis.
Atlantis. What about Lemuria? I thought they were a huge, the land of Mu.
They were, and we'll get to them later, but they came
Okay.
later. They
Okay.
came after Atlantis. Um, so back to the story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So
Yes.
apparently, his real mother decided she was going to give up the fetus and let him be taken wherever the biological hygiene authority decided.
Electrical
They
hygiene authority. I like that. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
decided that they wished him to be, and so apparently they decided for whatever reason that he was coming to Earth and would live a normal-ish life. Of course, he did not, as we know.
Yes, because we started to worship him
Yeah.
in
Well,
part.
and also he did some pretty extraordinary things that were kind of hard to hide.
Yeah.
And he was placed with a family which were the lineage of King David. Um, and so they were not exactly what the image we have of them, where they were these impoverished people who came from nothing. They were quite wealthy, and um, they were doing very well uh, in their society. They were respected members of Israelite society. They were respected even by the Roman occupying authority. Um, and so he wound up with this family, and of course, as we know, Herod issued the order to kill Jewish boys, and so this his parents, while he was an infant, fled to Egypt. This much you can read even in the regular uh, Bible. What's missing is the period between their flight and him returning to what was then Israel. Which, by the way, I'm not gonna say what I want to say.
Okay, you can
um,
tell me later.
uh, but anyways, they were so while he was in Egypt, what we have some record of from the Gnostic texts. It's not in the four Gospels as we know them. But what is in the Gnostic texts is that he studied the occult. And first of all, and second of all, he was extremely psychic because of his healing capabilities. He was able to resurrect people.
From the
We have,
dead.
yes, and we have records of this in the Gnostic texts where he would an incident as a child where he killed someone a with a look and then instantly resurrected them on the spot.
So he had those psionic capabilities to kill, but he could also resurrect.
Yes,
Did
he
most
was.
Aldebarans have those skills, or was he unique?
Most have them.
This is one
Um,
book I think we both recommend is the Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagel. At least I do. To
yes,
find some
and
of the true teachings of Christ
yes,
right
and
here.
and another one is the Templar Revelation by Lynn Pickett.
I'm
I
typing
I do
to. There it
I do
is.
too.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh, that's a also a very, very good book. Um, which goes into incidentally what happened after his so-called death. Now, what he likely fell into was led into in Egypt was the cult of Isis, which people don't realize that the cult of Isis outlasted the Romans by a very, 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 very long time, and most of the Egyptian gods. And it was also spread because when Egypt became part of the Roman Empire, there became an Egyptian diaspora throughout the entire empire. And so, and they took their religion with them. And it survived in various forms until the Christianization of uh, Europe or of Greece was the last place where it held out. And that didn't, as we know, that didn't occur until like the 6th or the 7th century CE. So that religion lasted much longer and was much more widespread than people think.
The ISIS religion.
Yes, and
Here-
well, and the general that's also a very good book.
Yeah, it looks like it ties into what you're talking about.
Yes,
Egypt.
Lynn Pickett is the fact that there are not statues of her in the major cities around the world is a crime against everything.
Yeah, well, they never, make heroes out
Yeah,
of the real heroes.
yeah, exactly. Um,
Okay. The Stargate conspiracy.
yeah, that's a very good book as well. But at any rate, so he became a part of the cult of Isis, and upon returning to Roman Israel, um, he began, he found other members of the Isis cult, including John the Baptist,
Hmm.
which is quite interesting. People never notice this, that baptism was not a Jewish tradition, and it is still not a Jewish tradition.
Interesting.
Uh, so people never notice that, and they never seem to question why a supposedly devout Jew was engaging in this very, very, very pagan practice of baptism.
Yeah, it does seem very pagan to me. I never did it. It just, I mean, not that I'm against paganism, but it just seemed like a very, very strange, ritualistic
Yeah,
thing. It was very ritualistic. Yes.
yeah. And so,
And there's ISIS.
yeah. What's also erased from the Gnostic texts is that Jesus was a man. He was an extraordinary man, but he was still, at the end of the day, a man. He he had a temper. He had relationships with women. He drank. You know, he did normal things.
Yeah. Like a no, you're saying he's a man, not just a spirit, like they want us to think he was just a
Yeah,
ethereal figure. He was a
yeah,
real life physical man.
yeah. And he wasn't perfect. He was normal. In most ways, except he was psionic to an incredible degree, and he attracted followers because of that. And he was, I do think it's genuine that he did not desire a religion to be
Yes.
around him. I think he was genuinely just trying to do the right thing by his society, and his society revulsed him for it. That much I agree with. Um,
Yes, and he and this is probably another whole subject, but he wanted, at least from what I read from the Gnostic Gospels, he didn't want a religion, but he did want Mary Magdalene to lead the movement, which was wiped out of the Bible, of course, and they made her into a whore.
Yeah, which incidentally, even the Nicene text, that's what the canonical texts actually never explicitly say that she was a prostitute.
Yeah, I remember you. They sort of like got
That
that in
that,
there
that is
somehow.
well, that's a Catholic invention.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, where was I? So
I apologize for
he had
interrupting.
it's a no, you're fine. This is a we're having a
All
conversation.
right. Okay, good.
So he had a relationship. He had relationships with quite a number of women and possibly a few men. Um, it was Rome, you
Yeah,
know.
right. It was Rome, as in Rome,
Yeah,
as in Rome.
yeah. So you know he was definitely not a virgin, but and he probably had quite a number of children. You know, people in those days, people, especially men, did not do monogamy in the way we do now. They would have one main partner for life, and then they would, when the that partner wasn't in the mood, they would go off and be with someone else.
So it's like a
Sometimes there's times I wonder if maybe that's actually the natural state.
yeah, I know. I think the marriage one is maybe patriarchal or Puritan or
Yeah,
colonist or one of those words. It was a way to organize and control, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
I just
But
wanted to mention the pool of Bethesda only because my spiritual name is Bethesda. It's on my, if you see, go to my Facebook page, it says Jane Celia Hatch Bethesda. And I got this name given to me like 30 years ago. And I
huh,
never knew what it meant. And then I looked up Bethesda. I'm like, oh, maybe it's from this. So, and this is where Jesus was said to heal. Although, did he really even need water, John? Do you think to heal?
no, but he may have used that as a site.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh yeah. And so the woman, his main partner, the woman who he was deeply in love with was Mary Magdalene. And she probably was not a prostitute because she was well off.
Right.
Um,
Interesting.
she again was very wealthy. She was a noblewoman. Now, she may possibly, if you look at how that society worked, it is technically possible she may. One second. Hmm, okay. It is possible she may have been like a madam or something, but I don't think that's very likely. Um, my what the research seems to indicate, and what we were taught in Shula, was that she was an heiress of uh, someone's fortune, and which was quite rare in uh, for in that society, and she would have been one of the last women to do this for quite some time in that society, because as Roman law began tightening, they began restricting, well, the passing of property in general, but particularly to women. And so, what happened was that they were very deeply in love, and it's possible she also was an Aldebaranite exile, because she was also very, very psionic. Whether she was his level of psionic, that's who knows.
So they met and fell in love and where was this in Jerusalem or
a, or around in the Roman colony of Israel.
and
And
she may have been El Debaran. What would be the alternative? Just human, a human, but
well, she may have been any number of hybrid
yeah,
species as well.
okay.
Um,
And so then what
and
happened?
well, persecution set in. And so the decision was made that they were going to fake his death, and uh, he would flee to what is now France. Of course, it was the Gaul, uh, Gaul, and she would follow. And that is the story of his death.
It was
Uh,
faked.
yes, it was faked. There was no carrying of the cross or any of that stuff. That is entirely legend. There was some sort of a faked death, likely a false sacrifice, and which is a tradition of ISIS, is a staged human sacrifice. Um,
During that era, they did crucify people on the cross, but he was not
yes,
one of them.
correct.
Okay. And what era are we talking right now? What year?
We're talking about the year that we're told, so about 33 CE.
Okay. So that's correct anyway. You gave us
Yes.
that much.
Yeah.
Okay. And
And
so he left for France and then she followed. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay.
what happened was that she was beginning to carry on the movement as he had wished her to do. However, she faced jealousy, extreme jealousy from Peter and Paul, and some of the other apostles actually supported her, which is such as James and uh, what's the another one?
Paul and
Paul and Peter were her opposition,
yeah, okay.
but she had supporters as well. James and I can't remember the other one who was known to be her supporter. But there were actually quite a few of them, which is why when you read the New Testament, a whole lot of these apostles just completely disappear from the record because they were supporting her.
Right.
And so essentially she had to leave for France within a few years, which was sooner than had been planned or anticipated. But she did, and she took with her her fortune.
Isn't that
And
interesting? We were told she was like a beggar. I guess they want to glamorize poverty, so we that's all we emulate is poverty, not wealth or something.
yeah,
Something like
they
that.
it's funny how in spite of all the wars that have been done in the name of Christianity, the Bible as we know it is actually a very weak text. Like it very much encourages weakness to
Yeah.
it's funny how that dichotomy has developed. But she took with her her fortune, and he had probably his own money, I'm sure. And they settled in what became the city of Albi.
Albie. Okay.
Yeah, Albi. And how did it get that name? How did Albi get that name? It got its name from the fact that it's the descendants of theirs, and they bred like rabbits, were all or mostly all blonde, blue-eyed. They had and albino. So albino in French is albi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, don't need this guy. Yeah, that was supposed to be something about Mary Magdalene in France, but we would have had to see that ad. There's a lot of information about Mary Magdalene in France. It's just all over, so people can
Yeah.
research it themselves.
Yes.
Um,
And so their children, his Aldebaranite genetics carried through, and their children looked Aldebaranite, and they had a lot of them, and their children took to going over to the Germanic tribes and interbreeding with them,
okay.
and then down into what became the Basque country in southern France and northern Spain. It's a mountain range in it's part of the Pyrenees in
Okay.
is the Basque country. And incidentally, the Basque language is Aldebaranite.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Jeez, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So it's
Yeah.
actually an ET language. I guess everything
Yes.
really is, but
Yeah, but it's a one of the purest ET languages still in existence here. And that's why there is no language like it on Earth, and linguists have been completely unable to find a source for it. It just appears in writing one day and in spoken form one day, and there's no language that is similar to it, and there is no uh, how would you put it? Yeah, just there's no language similar to it. It's what's called a language isolate uh, in linguistics. And so, what became of their children and their children's children is that they became the royal families and the noble families of Europe.
okay.
Eventually, of course, the Roman Empire fell. The Germanic tribes united and became a state. The Slavic tribes began setting up their own states. The Greeks became the Greeks installed their own royal family, and so on. And so all of these royal families and heads of state and noble houses are Merovingians, or the descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
Okay, so we've gotten to the marrow.
Yes. And these people are the most psychic bloodline on earth that because of inbreeding, the psionic genes have stayed in place. And so they are the most psionic bloodline on earth, and there are millions upon millions upon millions of people who have this bloodline, and they're fairly easy to track, actually.
You told me the other day.
Yeah,
One
and
way.
yeah. And for people in the audience, if you're wondering, am I a Merovingian? It's very simple. Look at your left palm. Do you see an M in the lines? If you do, then hey, cousin.
Brother.
Yeah.
Well, you do feel that connection, don't you, when with people in SSP and targeted, like there's a soul connection, and maybe it's now I realize it's probably a bloodline connection too.
Yes. And so these royal families and all of these noble families became the SSP. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah.
You mean the victims of SSP,
Well, and
the
well,
abductees?
and the ones at the top became the perps.
So they were all Merovingian bloodline, the
in the
perpetrators and the prey.
in
In
the
this,
Western world. Yes.
oh, so they took a bad turn somewhere. Some of those bloodlines, of course. Well, they were warriors.
Yeah, they were not peaceful people. It's they were not, and yeah, you don't.
Ironically, since they were bloodline of Jesus and Mary, you'd think that well they would have the healing and psionic skills, but they were also warriors, so they would go could go in either direction.
Yeah.
Is that correct, John?
Yes.
They could develop either skill. The
Yeah. Well, that like that
dynasty.
that that Aryan drive to for greatness, always remains. No matter how good of a person you try to be, there's still that kind of Aryan
Conquer.
assertiveness. Assertiveness, I would say. Yeah.
This says the Merovingian dynasty 639, and are they talking about this whole red thing right
Yeah.
here, which is all of Europe, really.
That's all of France. That's a good part of Germany and a little bit of Spain. And let's see.
Is this correct, do you think, to a
Well,
degree?
that's correct for uh that era, but they spread and became the bloodlines of all of the major European powers that have risen and fallen. Uh, you know, Spain, Italy, England, Hungary, Lithuania, Poland, Russia, Serbia, you name it, they got it. Um,
This is even called tributary Bavaria. So, yeah, it was
yeah,
huge. It was huge.
yes,
639.
yeah, but
Huge.
it spread even past that, all the way across the whole of Europe. And then eventually, of course, in the age of discovery, as it's called, when they began sailing to places like well, to the Americas, but also to Australia, uh, Macau in southern China, and well, a lot of places in the South China Sea and North Africa. All of these places. Who was doing this colonization? Wasn't normal people. It was
Right.
noble. It was noble families who were setting up these colonies, and so these bloodlines spread everywhere.
They had that blood urge to conquer and explore. So
Yeah,
it's safe to say it was Merovingian that explored and conquered or whatever, founded supposedly the Americas, although we know they were heavily populated before then.
yeah, and also Australia and other places.
They were the conquering forces and for all these indigenous people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
all right, and so in the 1800s, in the 1830s, these people began a little art that we now call archaeology. And
Okay.
they were exploring all over the place, but most particularly Egypt and India. And what were they finding in, oh, and Southeast Asia? And what were they finding in these places? They were finding ancient sites with full on functioning stargates. And they were going through these stargates in the 1830s and finding themselves on other planets. And they began, and as they do, they thought, well, we need to colonize these places, don't we? Or at least we need to explore these places. And
Right.
we can't, and most people cannot compete with the locals. So who do we send? We send our own people. And we start tracking the bloodlines, and we start finding our cast off relatives to send through and, begin setting up. And that is the true beginnings of the SSP.
Is the mid 1800s, they were sending castaway relatives through the stargates off planet to other
Yeah,
planets.
yes.
You
It's
get rid
kind
of
of
old
wild to
Earth.
imagine, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's. I know you have a Stargate chat map on your Facebook page. Is it worth it to go to that and
Uh,
search for it?
sure.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And then when that's up, we can get to the Yellow Emperor and the Manchus.
Okay. Which were the other royal bloodlines. Is that correct? Other than the Merovingians, we had a
Yeah,
couple of other.
they're they're the Eastern world's targeted bloodlines.
Are the Merovingians and these other two bloodlines? Are they the dominant beings on the planet, or
They're the keepers. Let's
in
put it that way.
population wise, are they dominant? Here's John's book, of course.
I I
They
don't
just
I
came
don't
out.
think they're I would say that they're more dominant in Asia.
Okay. So
Than
here is your Stargate map, or one,
yes.
and these are still the major Stargates. And to point out, they're
Well,
different than portals. They're Stargates. They're different.
they're the ones that I know the location of well enough that I could find them on a map.
Okay.
A lot of them are just next to a random mountain or whatever, or a pyramid that I can't identify and in my memory because I remember far, far, far more than these going through them.
And so the mid 1800s, they're putting humans through these Stargates onto other. So we had time travel back then, the mid
They
1800s.
they weren't time
Oh,
traveling.
right, right. They weren't
They were
time
just
travel. Sorry, portals.
yeah, they were just going through them to other planets in real time.
In real time. Okay. So we were starting to populate off planet in the mid 1800s through these stargates.
Yes.
Okay. And does this lead us into the other bloodlines, or do we have another piece?
Let's break there
Okay.
because that's a little cliffhanger.
Ooh. Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
The Manchus.
You want to go to the Manchus?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go. Yo, you want me to share?
Yeah.
I do have some images, I believe. Where are you? There's just some random, but here we are.
Yeah.
Is that a good representative?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right. So, who are the Manchus and now? All right. To understand this, you have to go all the way back to a place called Lemuria,
Okay.
which I believe it was about 25,000 years ago. That I think, doing my calculations, based on, again, what I was taught in colonial Shula, it was about 25,000 years ago. There was a whole other continent in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Uh, and this place was called Lemuria, or the Land of Mu, or various things. I'm sure that it had a different name in their own tongue.
Mm-hmm.
But for various reasons, this continent fell and sank into the ocean. But a lot of people survived. Or and who were these people who survived? They were an Asiatic people descended from the a what's it called? From Rigelians. ETs from the star system Rigel, Rigel, who had come here and had set up a colony on this uh, continent known as Lemuria. And these descendants of these Rigelians fled as their continent was sinking into the ocean, and they found themselves in the Tungusic steppe of eastern Mongolia, northeastern China, and southeastern Russia, and began from there eventually, as people who live in mountains do, began splitting off into clans, and four noble clans arose. Now, these four noble clans began ruling over the steppe, the Tungusic steppe, with an iron fist. Again, these were not peaceful people. And you can actually look this up. The four noble Manchu clans.
The four noble Manchu clans. And they were descendants of Lemuria, who were descendants from, of course, another star system. Vigil, did you say?
Rigel.
Rigel. Okay. Couldn't read my own writing. Rigel. Okay.
And the last one, the last proper dynasty of China, incidentally, the Qing dynasty, was a Manchu dynasty openly. However, pretty much all of the dynasties that have ruled China have been since the first one, since the state of Qin, uh, which was over 2,000 years ago, have been Manchus, have been crypto Manchus.
Okay. So we have four noble Manchu clans as another bloodline lineage, aristocratic, from Lemuria, from Vigil.
Yes, and
Interesting.
the last true imperial ruler of China was a member of the Yehenara clan, uh, which can also be looked up.
Wait a sec. Y
Y
E E.
H E Nara clan.
You seem to have a lot of interaction with Chinese, Japanese culture. Your altars do, at least.
Yeah, there it is, the Nara clan.
Okay. Um,
And so the Empress Dowager Cixi, who was the last real ruler of China, the emperor was essentially just her vassal. Um, and was a member of this clan, incidentally. And incidentally, also, she is who drove the imperial system of China into the ground by refusing to modernize or deal with the outside world in
what
any
was
way.
her name?
Empress Dowager Cixi, Cixi.
Did you know her through time travel or anything? There she is.
A little bit, yes, and she was a piece of work.
In what way? She looks like a piece of work, but in what way?
She was very mean, and I guess the modern term would be xenophobic. Uh,
Uh, and what was your personal rate? Why were you in her presence? Was it a military espionage?
yes, we were negotiating for a few artifacts.
Did you get them?
Yes, we did.
What were they? Can you say what they were?
They were trying to remember actually.
That's okay.
No, no, I should try and remember this. One of them was a a control device, like a remote influencing device, ancient from some ancient civilization. Who knows which one? And there were also a lot of scrolls. We always sought out scrolls, particularly ancient Chinese scrolls, very heavily, um, because they
So
had information about ETs in them.
so you're actually in time travel, you're actually, there's a lot of shamanic journeying and astral projection and, subsoul traveling, but you're actually, your entire physical being is going back in time. Is that correct?
Yes, and I
Jesus.
have to run on that note. We'll pick this up,
Okay.
you know. Okay.
All right. You're coming back? Okay. So, while John's gone, I'm always absolutely fascinated by his understanding of time travel, and that has been going on for at least a century. One of the scariest things about time travel is evil, or whoever's dominating or ruling our world or trying to enslave us. If they make a mistake historically, and they can go back and a mistake in their estimation is if we the people or the humans make progress somehow, if we win a war, if we defeat them, or any sort of advancement for humanity. So God only knows how many we've made. They just go back and they correct it to go in their direction, which is part of the reason all you see right now on this planet basically is death, destruction, slavery, and it's getting worse and worse, impoverishments, because they can go back and correct it. If somebody got elected that was for the people, that they can send time travels, and they use John, and I also know Arkim Ra. They would send them back, and they would either assassinate the person, the leader, whether it's someone like Tesla or another humanitarian. They can go back and kill them or suppress them or ruin their lives so that they never achieved what they actually did achieve in that timeline. So that's how time travel has been extremely misused. And I don't know if it's ever used for the good now. I've never heard a testimony from a Montauk survivor that time travel has been used for the betterment of humanity, or the galactics or the entire universe. It seems to be because the elites have control of this technology. They're using it for destruction for the most part, and to destruction always aimed at the improvement of their lives and their bloodline. So for them it's more money, more power, more resources, more control of planets, and on and on and on. So as you can, John just said, he was forced to time travel back to this woman. I can't remember her name, CC or something, like, I don't know, but to get technology for the Montauk Project, which was run, of course, by Nazis, CIA, U.S. Navy, uh, and other nefarious organizations and entities. So he was, he didn't have a choice. He was under mind control. They would have killed him, or they would have killed children, or they would have punished him. They lock in these time travelers and these survivors of Montauk, these children, so that if you ever do anything wrong, you're immediately killed, and they can keep killing you and regenerating you. So it's sort of a form of torture. So you're locked in. And so he and other children who went through Montauk, the Montauk Project in Camp Hero in New York, were forced. They were put on the Roswell chair. The actual Roswell crash was UFO, or some believe advanced German technology, which the U.S. Navy confiscated and brought to Camp Hero in New York. And then they abducted children off the streets of America, hoping to find these bloodlines, the Merovingians, who have psychic and telepathic and psionic skills, because we're the only ones that could. They knew that either ETs or bloodline royals, so-called royals, aristocrats, could operate this technology. So they kind of do they sometimes they can test, and they go specifically. I know they specifically went for me. They knew my bloodline. They just do a sweep. Getting abducting children all over America, off the streets of America and the Western Bloc, to put into. I think there was 3 million abducted. 300,000 were killed because they couldn't handle the torture, the starvation, and the time travel machine. John's one of the few that has survived the time travel machine. So yeah, this was all for power, money, control, slaves, DNA, whatever. The Nazis, CIA. I mean, to the very top. It's really the Vatican and the Pope and the Jesuits and the Freemasons on top of all of that, meaning the CIA. And then above them is off-world ETs that are even running the Vatican and the Pope. And it's all, unfortunately, about using us like cattle and slaves, and their never-ending. They're never. What do they want? If some of these bloodlines have everything, they even own planets, and they have houses the size of cities, supposedly, or a city. So what do they want? They have everything now. Like we're in a complete feudal system right now. We're in a complete feudal system where people cannot get medical care, food, housing, and the rich are getting richer. So anyway, John Whitberg, Arkeem Ra, Penny Bradley, James Rink. I could go on and on with names. A lot of them were part of the Montauk Project and other projects for the purpose of splitting their minds, so that they would become very acute at different qualities. And one of them was time travel. So I find it quite fascinating that we have this empress. I believe that's the correct, as part of this presentation that John has actually been in the presence of, negotiating for technology and scrolls. So I kind of want to stay here until he gets back, because this is a monument to Mary Magdalene in France. Of course, there's evidence beyond making it just speculation that Mary Magdalene was certainly in France. And there's more and more people that are discarding the Roman biblical version, which was very self-serving of Jesus, and understanding having a Gnostic knowledge of Christ, which was within, was considered heretical. You could be crucified for saying, I have a personal connection to Jesus Christ. I have a Gnostic connection to Jesus. You could be crucified on the cross. I'm sure I was. I know I was hung, or as a witch, for probably saying something similar, which is odd, but because they created this illusion that witches were antichrist. They were probably very closely related. They were probably Merovingians who had all the powers of Christ or similar powers. I'm sure they dissipated a bit through the bloodlines, but I'm sure the witches were Merovingian bloodlines because they had the powers of healing and psionic skills and telepathic and prophetic. And sorry, he's messaging me now. So that's why the witches were killed. Um, sorry, drama here. So yeah, the witches were killed by the Romans because they had the skills of Christ, and they wanted to stomp out the bloodlines that were for healing and uplifting and uh be just being a positive aspect of humanity. That's why the so-called witches, they're actually Christ bloodline, were that was the Inquisition, was getting rid of the divine feminine. I mean, it all goes back to Mary Magdalene, that they played her as a whore, and they completely eliminated Christ's true teachings, which is he wanted her to head up the movement, not the church. He wasn't about church at all. He was about loving one another and, a Gnostic connection to him and God. It's within us. And that was heretical because the Romans wanted, and the Catholics wanted the people to believe they had to like worship at their feet to attain uh, 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 as a pathway to heaven and to avoid hell. It's a very, very bad fairy tale, the Catholic Church. Very dehumanizing, disempowering, blaming, labeling, undermining humanity, killing off the feminine. They made women into nuns, these freakish, I'm sorry, but they're freakish Muslim like non-sexual beings who, of course, got very perverted because of their oppression. But that was the Catholics' idea of femininity, which was extremely twisted. Um, so, yes, Christ and Mary were all about Gnostic knowledge and a divine Gnostic connection to Christ and to Mary. It's this very strange thing going around, like not too long ago, about like it was really, really bad to be honoring Mary. It's just like, oh, when are they ever going to stop? Like, I thought we were taught to believe Mary was holy. And now, like, I think it was a few years ago, like, oh my God, if you not worship, they don't even want to be worshiped. They just want you to be like them. You know, there was this movement that I just like beyond my comprehension that they find new and improved ways to desecrate the divine feminine, even with one of the most holy beings, Mary Magdalene. So John said he'd be right back. So I know it's pretty hard for him uh, to do these interviews for a variety of reasons, which I will not go into. But so here's another image of Mary Magdalene. But I highly recommend everyone read the Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagel. It's based on the actual carbon dated scrolls found in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. I think it was the early 1900s. They were by a wandering, not shepherd. He was a warrior, and unfortunately, he brought the scrolls home and burnt a lot of them. But some of them were saved, and they were carbon dated, and they were proven to be Christ's actual teachings, not the co-opted screwed up Bible version for the most part. And I shouldn't say that. That's really dramatic, but I am very dramatic. But this is actual, and you can read them in the Gnostic Gospels, how he felt about Mary. He even called God Sophia. It talks about the jealousy of the disciples. They were jealous because he kissed her upon the lips, and how he wanted her to become the leader of his. He didn't even see himself as a movement. He was a healer who wanted to help humanity. And so I've lost my train of thought. Uh so yeah. We're getting, like, this is an extraordinary a revelation that John is giving us. Take it as you may, but he got his knowledge off world in German schools where they actually taught most of the truth and time travel. People going back, like, oh, what actually happened to Jesus on that date, and they send time travelers back. So he's getting a lot of his information from personal people who have travel back in time to these people and these times and dates. And in case you don't know it already, we are living in a completely mind control environment. Like, our planet is Operation Mockingbird. All the media is, and you can look this up, the Church Committee hearings in 1975, led by Frank Church, revealed the CIA was involved with co-opting journalists and the media into Operation Mockingbird, so that nothing got out. Practically nothing got out was the truth, or it was a version of the truth, or it eliminated important truths. And so the truth about history, about what's going on now on the planet, if you either left or right, it's all propaganda. They just want us to hate each other. Whether you're watching right-leaning news or left-leaning news, it's mostly all lies to get you to hate me, to get you to hate everyone, to get you to hate your neighbor. They're like, they'll show an image of a crazed leftist, with blue hair, everything the right would hate, and then they take, and then they say that's the left, and then they get a picture of, like, someone on the right, like some crazed, someone on the right with guns and ridiculous clothes, and so everybody thinks that's the right, that one person out of millions and millions and millions of people they parade on the news, and that's the right. And then they pick someone from the left, that the right, they know the right would hate. They know us so well. They know us emotions. They know what we'll rally behind. And there's like this a minuscule percentage of people that fill that insane version of the right, or the insane version of the rest of us are Americans, and we're normal, and we just want clean air and clean food, and we don't want our children to be owned by the state. So, John is giving us a version that I believe in my heart and soul is the real version, because I also feel that connection to Christ and Mary and the history from when I was very young. I wouldn't go to school. I wouldn't really go to church. I left at 13. That's in my book, The Land of Broken Crystals. That I just walked out one day, and that was a pretty liberal church. Mary Baker Eddy and the Science and Health. She was pretty radical. Even that was too confined for me. So I've kind of instinctively known from them, and I wouldn't go to school. Neither would one of my daughters. We just instinctively knew it was pretty much all lies. So I think one of the reasons I'm excited about this interview is I feel like we're actually getting some real truth about humanity and the history of the planet and the Atlantis, Lemuria. We're all ETs. We're all star seeds for the most part. We did not evolve from monkeys. I never believed that either. They never, there was the missing link that they never qualified. And I just, as much as I love monkeys, I think, I don't know if I've never met one. I am a monkey in Chinese astrology. That's when you see me giggling and laughing, and my inner monkey in Chinese astrology. I'm born in the year of the monkey. So even though I have a double Capricorn, super serious, life path, I do have that inner monkey that is always trying to jump out. And thank God for that monkey sometimes, because the material I handle, as you know, MK Ultra, mind control, secret space program, child sex trafficking, and the book I'm writing, Royal Blood, Royal Blackmail. It's a friggin' struggle to get through every day of my life dealing with this stuff. So I'm glad I have an inner monkey that will point out everything that's funny and silly and goofy, for my own survival. And just for the record, I am a targeted individual. I'm getting hit extremely hard, especially last night with directed energy weapons. I believe they're coming from Shriver's Air Force Base. They're also hitting me financially in every way possible. It's hard to explain. I'd have to do a 2-hour video on how they gang stalk, cyber hack. They can get into whatever app I try to use, whether it's PayPal or Wise or my website, to receive money from clients. They break it down, or they just make it so hard, it's not usable, or they change one email so that the whole system falls. So if anyone has any advice, like how I'm about down to asking for silver and gold and you know oyster shells and um acorns. Actually, I probably really like that. Not bring me diamonds and rubies, because I can't accept anything through PayPal or Wise or Zelle or what the fuck, whatever. They can fucking fuck everything up. So yeah, bring me. That'd be cool. Frankincense and gold and silver bars, and I don't know how that works long distance. But anyway, I'm trying to be funny. I was pretty much in tears last night, just trying to get $75 from a client in Canada. And, but you just have to laugh. You cannot let them destroy you. You can't let them get to your soul. Um, which they don't. They can never change your soul qualities. And I just, they have made my life and my daughter's lives hell on earth. And I can only hope that I leave having improved this planet somehow. And I'm sure a lot of other Merovingian bloodlines and SSP and targeted individuals, that was their goal, was to improve the earth, which is why they sabotaged you from birth, most likely. Depending upon your level of power and influence they knew you would have, they'll start very early to start to destroy your life. So yeah, if anybody has any ideas how I could successfully receive money through this techno world, I don't know, because they can get into anything. Privacy is a joke, pretty much. Especially if you're targeted by anybody. You're anybody and you step out of line, they've got everything. They've got all your emails, they've got all your texts, they've got all your financial. They can do whatever they want. If you think, because something's encrypted, they're not going to get it, you know, yeah. But anyway, I don't know what's up with John. I think I know, but let's see if I know that. Okay, I was going to talk to him about a post that I saw on Facebook, which I found fascinating. I mean, of course, a lot of them I find fascinating, but this was a friend on Facebook, and I think he'd be okay with me sharing it. This is John's. He he had a book. I think it was called Beyond the Pale Horse, whatever that book is. And he there was a chapter in it about, I think, how they were going to wipe out everything about what just happened with the jab and the outcome and what the goal was. And then he went back just recently, and here it is right here. I hope he doesn't mind. I mean, it is uh a part of our book in our house disappeared. Now this is what I expected. So it's in the comments. So this is something that, okay, Trump White House just announced teleportation secret weapon. We can manipulate time and space. Yes, that's absolutely true. So what, and he said that other people said that chapter in their books disappeared too. So some people call this the Mandela effect. And what this is part of time travel. They can go back and take out pieces of books, and they're out of all of them. That's part of it. So I was going to ask John about this. Does he know who went back in time, and did he do it under mind control? Or is this how these this chapter disappeared? It's just an example of what they can do with to change history and to change the future. Shock time travel is real and how it works. Government has been hiding it. Apparently, Trump has just admitted to time travel. Um, so he actually left a link here about time travel. So I want to, if when I get John back, I want to let's see what this.
Actors, we can make you believe we know what we're doing, when in fact,
This is something about, if we get past this ad,
the Trump administration science director has come out saying that American tech can, quote, manipulate time and space. That's not an accident. You don't say that as a turn of phrase. That is not a way you describe calling someone on the phone. Something doesn't quite add up as to why he's saying this. And recently, Donald Trump issued a veiled threat to China saying, she's a smart guy, we'll negotiate. Because otherwise, we have weapons and no one knows. Don't believe me? Let's play these clips. My friends, I think we have more than enough ancillary evidence to suggest the US has technology that is undisclosed and may meet disclosure. And it lines up with a lot of theories online researchers have, and the media calls them conspiracy theorists. But listen to this from Donald Trump first.
And we're very powerful. This country is very powerful.
it's not just this country. They all have the time travel.
We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, even not even close. So nobody's going to do that. But I think that if that's what you're referring to, maybe
not even close. And then you have this video. Take a listen to what the science, what Trump administration science director has to say about our technology.
Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter, and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structure.
Okay, so I don't know what that's about.
Assumptions so that we can come to the correct conclusions. But there is one conclusion
Okay,
I think
the White House.
that is it's obvious. The U.S.
The White House. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. Okay, so the White House is admitting to time travel, it appears. Yeah, I didn't know this. I'm assuming this is legitimate. You can check it out at yourself. I'll put this link below. Quantum time flip makes light move simultaneously. So they're showing us here that what John has been saying, we have the capability to time travel.
But it could help us figure out some of the universe's most mysterious phenomena. I believe I could be wrong about this. Let me Google search this. I'm checking this out. Neutrino message sent through a rock. Time reversal. A single particle. Revealing new physics. They have been experimenting with sending particles back in time for a long time. And people about this years ago. Take a look at this. For the first time, physicists have made light appear to move simultaneously forward and backward in time. By splitting a photon or a packet of light using a special optical crystal, two independent teams of physicists have achieved what they describe as a quantum time flip, in which a photon exists in both forward and backward time states. The effect results from the convergence of two strange principles of quantum mechanics. The counterintuitive rule are very small. First principle, minuscule particles to exist in many different states, or different versions of themselves at once until they are observed. The second, charge, parity, and time reversal, symmetry, states that any system containing particles will obey the same physical laws, even if the particles' charges, coordinates, and movements through time are flipped as through a mirror. By combining these two principles, the physicists produced a photon that appeared to simultaneously travel along and against the arrow of time. They published the results of their twin experiments October 3rd, November 2nd on the preprint server RXO. The findings have yet to be peer-reviewed. Maybe it's garbled nonsense. Maybe it's all fake. But we also have to consider that when Trump talks about these weapons and new technologies, could it be AI-generated weapons? I want to bring you back to the Philadelphia experiment. It's an alleged event claimed to have been witnessed by an ex-merchant mariner named Carl M. Allen at the U.S. Navy's Philadelphia shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The story surfaced in 1955 when Allen's in a book full of handwritten.
Okay, John's ready to come back on. We're going to go for about another half an hour. I'm going to bring him. I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back on. I hope. Maybe I'll just play this until he.
Annotations referring to the experiment to a U.S. Navy research organization, and a little later, a series of letters making further claims to a UFO book writer. Allen's account of the event understood.
Howdy.
Hi, John. Yeah, I've been talking about time travel, and I came across this video that the White House and Trump just made an announcement. I believe it was just recently that time travel exists. So this guy is explaining.
Are we recording?
Yeah. Yes, we're on.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just showing this video of the Philadelphia experiment and time travel, and Trump apparently just made an announcement that they have time travel capabilities. So yeah. You know that for sure.
Yeah. And
right.
to answer the question you asked, yes, you are bodily traveling. The government would not be abducting millions of people per year for the astral plane.
Yeah, so we ended right here. It was a fascinating story that you would actually time travel back to her, and you were getting scrolls and some other kind of advanced technology which you were able to achieve.
Yes.
And
but she was very nasty, and I am sure that, like all royal families, I am sure that the royal families of China are no exception to, eating babies and everything.
exactly, on the top, they're all doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
you're actually able to touch, feel, talk in time travel as if because you are there. So it's
Yeah.
that's just mind blowing. So I've got about another half an hour, and I don't think we're going to cover it all, but we can go. Do you want to go on with the Manchus a little bit more?
I think we covered their history. Let's talk about the Yellow Emperor bloodline.
Okay, and we're basically saying the bloodlines that became part of secret space program targeted individuals and who are basically running the planet. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, the Yellow Emperor Huangdi. He is someone who ruled over the state of Qin, or who founded what became the state of Qin, which is the precursor to the dynastic system of China. But he ruled out of a city called Luoyang, that's the true Chinese homeland, is the Yellow River Delta area in I believe I am I trying to remember. I believe that it is now in Gansu province. You can look up this city.
Okay.
Loyang, Loyang.
Singapore.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna go back.
not Singapore. That's the one. That's the one you're on.
All right.
Loyang in China.
Okay.
Henan province. Um, it's quite a famous tourist attraction. There's a lot of like ancient rock carvings in caves around there, and historical sites. It's probably one of the tops of probably at the top of my bucket list.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
And that's it right there.
yes.
Looks like. Okay.
In that province, so south central China, which is the homeland of the Han people.
Okay. The yellow emperors.
Yes,
Okay.
the Yellow Emperor. He was again an extraterrestrial. He was a white guy, and according to legend, he was descended from the Nagas, which are they're essentially snake people. They have very long bodies, or very long snake-like bodies for the most part, except for the top few feet, which are a torso, and they have arms and a human-like head, and the rest is a snake body. Uh, these are, and according to legend, he was descended from either them or from dragons. The sources vary, and of course, there's difficulties with translation because it's in classical Chinese. It's not written in the vernacular Chinese that people still speak. It's written in classical or even pre-classical Chinese, Oracle bone script, which no one actually speaks anymore. So there are difficulties with translation. Um,
So we have these three major bloodlines
yes,
about the
and
Manchu, the
and
yellow.
the Yellow Emperor's descendants spread throughout China, particularly South China and into Vietnam. And then also they went north into Mongolia. And one of his descendants is Genghis Khan.
Okay.
And this is where we get into a point of where I can point out that there are far more SSP people than people think. Oh, pandas.
You're funny, John. Oh, peeing like a little kid. Oh, pandas. You want me to go back? You want me to go back, John?
No, it's okay. I do love pandas, though. What can I say?
You sent me some, and I haven't looked at them yet on Messenger.
Yeah,
You're
there
so
was two.
connected to China.
Yeah, but
Okay, that's
so at any rate, the Genghis Khan bloodline includes uh 2 out of here, hold on. I have the statistics up. I looked it up right before I came back on air because I knew it was very high. But let me look at it. Yeah. Hold on, I've got to go. Sorry.
You want me to wind this up, John, and we can do it again Monday, finish it Monday? Okay. Yeah, it's hard for any of us to have a consistent amount of time without some sort of weapons attack or gang stalking or something. So I'm going to wind it up, and we will start up again with Genghis Khan because we are going somewhere with these 3 major bloodlines. One of Christ, the Merovingians, and then the yellow, was it yellow emperors, and then the Manchu. And I think he was going to have some very interesting things to say about Genghis Khan. But we've already been recording for like an hour and a half. So I'm going to stop it here. We will finish it on the next one. I think for me it won't be till Monday. But this is absolutely one of the most fascinating interviews I've ever done. It's very life affirming to me. It affirms my intuition and my life and those of other targeted individuals, and why is it happening? Why? We have a lot of it goes back to bloodline. So I am doing a few free remote views. If you want to contact me, I don't know if I can even say this, but I have been doing shamanic healings, which involve removing some of the effects of the jab, and it's been pretty profound, especially when the stuff from the jab has settled and people are having troubles breathing. And so if you want a shamanic healing, you need to email me. I have no idea how to receive payment anymore. This poor guy is trying to pay me from Canada, and it's been 2 weeks and we can't figure it out. So, but I am available for healing work. We just have to figure out how you're going to pay me. And I hope John is okay. But I will probably do an update. I am going to stop this now, and thank you everybody. If you're still with us, please comment below. Please share. I would like to be able to get a larger audience. As you know, I'm being shadow banned, but thank you if you made it this long. And this is fascinating. This is historical. This has to get out. We have to know our true origin. We have to know our true history to start to heal. So let's see if I can figure out how to start. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everybody. I think John's okay, but I will be staying in touch with him after we hang up. Lots of love.